Welcome to the second episode of Cartridge Chronicles, the podcast where we dust off the cartridges, blow on them, whether that helped or not, and dive deep into the games that shaped us. I'm Questmaster Prime, and myself and my good friend and co-host Marz Attakz are going to reminisce about the games of yesteryear. Today we're going to talk about a fighting game that was still on the shelves at your local video rental store, while everyone else was renting Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. The game is Eternal Champions for the Sega Genesis. So, we're at the video game store. We're going to get some fighting games, and they don't have Mortal Kombat. They don't have Street Fighter, and what else is there? Oh, that's right. There's Eternal Champions. What is this strange game, Eternal Champions? So, me, Questmaster Prime, and Marz Attakz, we're going to talk about Eternal Champions and just go through the game. And it's a pretty interesting game, but we're gonna go through our thoughts and discuss it. So before we get started, I want to talk about the development. I couldn't find a lot of development on Eternal Champions,
Really?
but what I there's like not much out there.
We'll get to this
And
later, but when I recently played it, I was kind of like, oh. So
yeah, we'll get into that because I wasn't impressed as like I thought I was going to be either, or it must have been different back when I played it when I was younger. It must have been like nostalgic glasses or something, but we'll get into that because I
yeah,
was I was I was having the same experience you had. Um, but it's just it was a, it was just uh, Sega was just trying to get into the fighting game market. So that was the whole thing with Eternal Champions. They were just trying to ride the coattails of Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, and it came out in 1993 in North America, and on December before Christmas, and then it was released in Europe and Japan in early 1994. And it's a 2D fighting game. It's all developed and set by Sega. Um, it wasn't ported to other consoles, so it was only for Sega Genesis. And another thing I found out was the artwork was was from Ernie Chan, who's like a Marvel and DC Comics comic book artist. So, and I kind of saw that with the character designs. I did kind of see some similarities with the Marvel comics at the time. It had that like 90s feel, like with that 90s artwork style, comic book artwork style. What are your thoughts?
so yeah, this is a fighting game amongst like the fighting game genre. So fighting game genre is one of my favorite like genres. So again, at the time, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter 1, 2, Killer Instinct, and then even if you go across the island, the to Japan, you got Fatal Fury 1, 2, World Heroes, King of Fighters. So you're getting into, again, yeah, this is one of the things where you're like, fighting games are really popular now. We need to jump on board. Another thing that I'm thinking about is like with Sega, this is one of the first IPs that Sega released, and this also leads the way for other, I would say, what do they call it? Like how we look at Sony development now, like these are IPs that, or this is the gateway to a console, quote unquote, IP making different video games. So from this, you get Vector Man, Comic Zone, which are a lot more or better games if you think about it. But yeah, I also remember there was a big push for this game, like magazines, commercial. There was a marketing push for this game. One of my first electronic gaming monthly magazines that I owned was the Eternal Champions magazine, like the marketing magazine. If you remember, some of you guys don't even know, like back in the day, a long time ago, they used to have magazines for video games, and there was a lot of them. So Electronic Gaming Monthly was one of the biggest ones. Nintendo Power, all those other things. But because this was specific for Sega, this appeared in Electronic Gaming Monthly, and they had a big article, move list, all that stuff, character bios, everything. So it's interesting that there's not a lot about the development, but this is kind of a big deal for Sega because this is their first time saying like, hey, we are releasing a video game on the home console. Now they have done arcade games prior, but this is their first home console game, and it's a fighting game, so it's also a genre specific game. So
Yeah, yeah, it was advertised very heavily. I remember like during the time, like it was in Christmas time. This is around the holidays, and I remember all the commercials. There were so many commercials for Eternal Champions. They really hyped it up. They hyped it up, and I was like, I remember asking my mom, like, "Mom, I want to get that game. This game looks pretty cool. This is an awesome game." Uh, but I also wanted the Mortal Kombat. I wanted the Street Fighters. But
yeah,
then the Eternal Champions came in, and I was like, "Oh, I like this game too. I want to get this game as well." So, this game was advertised heavily, but and we'll get into this, but I think a lot of people were disappointed when they got the game because then we'll get into the reviews and all that stuff later. But the reviews weren't that great as the advertisements were. It was
yeah.
very mixed reviews.
I remember, luckily, like now thinking back, I never owned this game. I rented it.
Yeah.
And I think I was thankful that I rented it because I did get the Mortal Kombat. I did get Street Fighter 2 Special Championship Edition. And again, like those again were the highlight of the game, Fatal Fury. And then even later on you see like there's a Justice League video game that's a fighting game. So I just remember again this very, like you said, a very big advertising campaign. There was, like I said, the magazines were all about this, the reviewers, and then you got your hands on it, and it was like, huh, you know. But I was, like I said, I was glad that I rented it before I bought it. And there are, I could put this, like there are fighting game snobs, and I would consider myself a fighting game snob. Like, and I like control, the way the character feels is important to me, and the way the character fights is important to me. And it was just something about the controls of this game, and how it didn't see it. I guess I want to say it felt unpolished. This was Sega again. Sega's first foray into fighting games. Sega's first foray into we're doing a game specifically for our console at home. Yeah, there's gonna be problems, and it wasn't polished. But I couldn't imagine today, like if you fast forward and think about like God of War on the PlayStation 2 when it first came out, or pick a Sony game, right?
Like
There's a
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no, yeah. There's a polish
Hmm.
that these games have, because they're kind of like flagships of the console. And I think that's really what Sega was going for here. Was this was supposed to be a flagship, and it didn't. It did. I think it fell flat, at least in my mind.
Yeah, like when I was younger and I got this, I don't I remember this game being really good when I was young. Like I was one of the I'm like the opposite of you. I wasn't a fight. I like fighting games, but I wasn't like a snob. I wasn't a fighting game snob. I'm more of a generalist when it comes to video games. Like if it's a good game, I'll play it. But I remember it was one of those fighting games where I was actually good at. Because I was okay in Mortal Kombat, I was okay in Street Fighter, but Eternal Champions, like, I just when my mom finally bought it for me the next year, like I was I really mastered it. I looked up the different moves, and I really got good at it over time. And it was just one of those games that when I played it, for the show. I'm like, I don't remember it being so, like you said, with the controls. I don't remember it being so bad with the controls.
So yeah, it's just the
I just don't
control.
remember that. Yeah, yeah,
And I think and that's what really got me going back to play it again was like, yeah, I do remember the controlling being so bad. Um, but if we want to talk about the design of the game, the just even the characters, nondescript characters, um, but and I'm probably skipping ahead. Like one of the elements of the game that I thought was interesting was the fact that when you progressed, if you lost, you would have to go back to fight the previous character.
yeah,
So there was this idea that, again, you're in this kind of this loop, of the eternal champion, right?
yes,
Uh, as you progress, the characters got harder, but if you lost, you would go backwards, through this whole process. And so I think that was a very, and that's the thing, there were interesting elements in the game. It was just poorly, it wasn't executed well. It wasn't executed well. And
I
I
was.
don't know,
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, and I was like, I don't know if I really wanted to like the game. I think that's the other thing. Because again, with the advertisement and the marketing and reading up on it, like I think a lot of people really wanted to like the game.
I think I really believe, and we'll get into the story and stuff, but the story is actually pretty amazing. The story behind the characters and why they're there and why they're fighting. Like I mean, I even argue, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I would argue that the story is better than the Mortal Kombat story. That's just my opinion. I think it's way more deeper,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something you don't really see too much. Um,
I mean, I
so
think
we'll
that
get into that,
again,
but yeah,
yeah, but I think that's again we
yeah,
can do it right now. I think that again
yeah,
is why
yeah,
people really wanted to like the game because
yeah,
they
hmm
were giving you so many different things to want to see,
yeah,
to try to figure out and be a part of. It just the execution.
yeah. And I think a lot of it was the gameplay. We'll get to that next, but like the gameplay was, like you said, is clunky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like the story, the characters, I was just kind of reminded of the characters I used to like I used to like, the African American, the black guy, African African American, we would have called him, but yeah, he was black, and he was basically inspired by Blade,
Yeah.
Jonathan Blade, but he wasn't a vampire hunter in this game. He was something totally different, which we'll kind of get into too. But also with Jonathan Blade and also Larson Tyler, like those two characters, I really liked. I used pretty much every time I played
Yeah.
because I just liked their controls, even though they were clunky as well. But they weren't as bad as the other characters. That was
Yeah.
just my opinion. Who would you say is your favorite character?
I mean,
Or
indie game. It
your
was
experience. Yeah.
Larson, and then
Yeah.
what's the vampire guy's name? Um,
Oh, yes. Um, I think it was, oh my goodness. I think it was midnight, I
yeah,
think.
midnight. It was midnight. It's midnight.
Yeah,
But
midnight.
even like
Yeah.
there was like a there was like this cool again thing that he had where he would shoot this thing at you and then would beckon you forward and
Yeah.
like you couldn't like stop it. But that's like an interesting element in a game, like oh like that's something new like I hadn't seen before.
Mhm.
Um, Larson was again it was weird again eternal champions because it was like characters from different times
Yes.
as part of the story,
Yep.
and Blade was like from the future. Larson was like from the 1930s or 40s.
Yeah. It
uh,
was 20, 30s, 20s,
yeah,
20s, 30s. Yeah. Yep.
20s, 30s.
Yep.
Midnight was again the old school vampire. Then you had
Yeah.
like the beast guy from back in the prehistoric times, and then you had the wizard from the 1700s. So that was the landscape. And then you had the lady, um, I forget her name, starts with Shiva or something like that.
The one from the 90s. Is
Yeah,
that the one you're talking
yeah.
about?
It
What was her name? Oh my goodness gracious.
starts with an S, I believe, Shiva or something like that.
She was a Japanese
Yeah.
Shadow Yamato. Is that what it
Yes.
is?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
it's this
Yeah,
idea. So like let's and marrying
yeah.
again the story of these people are taken out of time
Hmm.
and they're put in this challenge, to fight again. So having those different elements. So again, Midnight was one of the people that I really liked because it was just kind of different. And Blade, of course, I think he was the first character because he was actually the main character that they were kind of talking about.
Yeah, he was the one you saw a lot. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
so also to have
yeah,
a black character
yeah,
lead on a fighting game, that was
yeah.
different, you
I
know.
like that. Yeah,
And then you think about even at the time with different comics released, because this was also the time that I believe you saw the Icon release with DC. So it
yeah.
was the black superheroes. So you got Static, you got Icon, you got um, oh gosh, it's all fading so fast. Um, but the different characters in that kind of universe where he's like, oh, there's actually black superheroes.
Yep,
So
yep,
Blade, another
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So again, to have kind of like this black character at the forefront of a fighting game, totally different, totally like not something that we'd ever seen before. Um, Normally with fighting games, they stayed in their very culturally Asian, you know,
Stereotypes.
element. Yeah, very, very. They stayed there,
Yeah,
So seeing it, broaden out, and then of course, more fantastical with like Killer Instinct, and even what is it with the dinosaur stuff that are fighting?
Turok, the
Yeah,
Turok.
no,
Yeah,
no,
Turok.
fighting with the dinosaurs that are fighting each other, and it's like
Was it?
claymation.
Clay Fighter. Is that what
Yeah,
it? Is that the word you're
well,
looking?
clay fighters, but then you have like the dinosaurs also.
Oh, I'm trying to remember what that
That's
one
gonna
is.
bug me.
Yeah, that's gonna.
But it
Yeah,
was
that's
like
gonna
again,
bug
like
me. I don't remember that
all
one.
these different fighting
Yeah,
games, type of games coming out with all the different kind of things. So
yeah,
and animal fighters. So yeah. But yeah, to see kind of like, okay, this is different. It takes place across all these different time periods. Each character has this weird backstory, but you know, ultimately every game comes down to gameplay. You
yeah,
know, how does it
yeah,
feel when you play it? And a lot of this was clunky. And you know, here's the other thing, right? by this time we were all used to kind of like the Street Fighter and the Mortal Kombat and the all the other fighting games like input style. And I'm talking about how you do a
Yeah.
move, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so hold back move, like hold back for 2 seconds, go forward, half circle, the Z, so uh we're used to how those elements, operate. And normally, you could take one, what you've learned in one and move to another. Outside of Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat was different,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
but in a lot of the 2D animated ones, it was all the same.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
all
It was
using
kind of a
the same
similar thing.
moveset.
Yeah.
This one, this game, it felt weird because it didn't feel like any of those moves were there. You know,
They
um,
had the basic moves though. They had like the basic things, but it was like they had and there were some things they tried to like match with Mortal Kombat. Like they didn't call them fatalities; it was called overkills.
yeah,
So they were the same. It was the same thing, but like you were saying, the controls were kind of they weren't fluid. I guess
yeah,
is the way of saying it. Yeah, yeah. So like I I think like the moves were still there. Like you still had your quick attacks. You still had like you know, your hard attacks, like those ones that, or I should say, strong attacks
mhm,
that were a little bit, they actually were harder to kind of sync up with what you're controlling. And then another thing was the when you're doing the controls on the Genesis, Genesis had the 3 buttons, so you had to buy. I remember buying a controller specifically for this game, the 6 button controller for this game, so I could master a lot of the moves and make it a little bit more fluid. So that's another thing that was different for it being on the Genesis because it was on the Super Nintendo. You have a little bit more buttons. You can kind of do more moves a little bit easier on
yeah.
the Super Nintendo, but the Sega Genesis, like even with Mortal Kombat, like you needed the 6 button controller. What are your thoughts on that?
I got the 6 button controller because Street
Yeah.
Fighter 2 required it.
You
So
need it. Yeah, you
yeah,
need it.
and I was so thankful that they actually came out with it because with the Genesis, if you
Yeah,
didn't have a 6 button controller, you had to
yeah,
hit like the s- the start button. You had to hit one button to switch between punch and kick on,
yeah,
which was
yeah,
annoying. So
yeah.
once they released this, like I got the 6 button controller as soon as it came out because I was like, you know, I know like playing Street Fighter in the arcade, 6 buttons.
Yes, yes.
Mortal Kombat was easy enough to pair. Like they even had it so the two middle buttons were block
Right.
because Mortal Kombat is a weird button. It's five. It's 5 buttons. So it's
Yeah,
high,
that's right. That's
yeah,
right. Yeah.
punch, low punch, high kick, low kick,
Hmm.
and block.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's a weird button combination. Like it was weird to see in a fighting game only 5 buttons and having a block button, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
um, that was again, like you said, buying the 6 button controller was necessity for fighting games because they required so many buttons. Neo Geo games even, have a four button, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
So it's just, as
Yep.
part of fighting games, being able to hit all the right buttons and have those buttons there. But yeah, once they released the 6 button controller for the Genesis, I got it. And then for the Saturn, the next system,
Oh yeah, the
it was just
Saturn
the
was a lot
six
of great.
button. Yeah, the six
Yeah.
button controller was standard.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah, you mentioned the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn had, I would think maybe 90. I might be exaggerating on this, but 90% of the games were probably fighting games for Sega Saturn.
yeah, yeah.
It's like it was like the fighting game console. There's so many games in the Sega Saturn.
Like
And
Neo
go
Geo
ahead.
and
Yeah.
Saturn, I think were like big fighting
They
games.
were huge fighting game consoles. Yeah. Yeah. And that was the thing, like for the Genesis, I didn't really think of it as a fighting game. It might have been some. It was fighting games on the Genesis, but I didn't think like I was a Nintendo kid, so I was. This might be a little biased. I didn't think a lot of the fighting games. I like the fighting. If I was going to get a fighting game, we're going to get Mortal Kombat. Now, of course, you had the blood in Mortal Kombat for Sega Genesis. Super Nintendo didn't have that. It had the sweat, I guess you can call that. Uh, but it was. I don't know, man. When it came to fighting games like Street Fighter 2. I know Street Fighter 2 came out for the Sega Genesis, but I was like, I ain't getting it for the Genesis. I'm getting it for the Super Nintendo because the graphics are way clearer and smoother. But that was just my personal preference. So
Yeah, I
that's how I look
mean,
at it.
that's even again with this game, like with Eternal
Yeah,
Champions, the
yeah,
graphics. Right? Uh,
yes,
at the time, I think we were even seeing better graphical games, fighting games.
yeah,
So this was again just the execution wasn't there um, for what they were pushing it to be.
yeah,
Graphically, control wise, it was just those things, especially back then, you paid attention to.
yeah,
Um, and having a game that was so like, yeah, this is it. This is gonna be good. This is we're actually making a fighting game. Sega is actually producing it. This is gonna be a flagship for the console. And then it kind of just, I guess you're gonna say it's like mixed reviewed, but
yeah,
I think that makes sense in a way. Uh, some people, again, the snob in me is like palettes aren't as refined, when it comes to fighting games. So, so yeah, the I feel like it was half baked in a way, and
hmm
they probably could have if they had released a second version or a third version.
hmm
It would have been they could have moved. It would have been better, and I think because even with fighting games, it's all with any game,
hmm
it's about the progression forward, right? You don't have Tomb Raider how it looks today
hmm
without Laura Croft being like majority polygons, right?
yeah,
Street Fighter, 2D fighter for years, up three, four is when it finally goes, full 3D,
hmm
5, 6. So there is a progression that we look forward to. The one thing though is like, with Neo Geo games, they already look really pretty.
oh yeah, the arcade
Yeah,
base, yeah, yeah,
you were playing the arcade game at home
yeah,
because 120 megs, 200 56 meg cartridges at home. You were playing the arcade style quality, whereas you were getting a port when you were playing on Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. So, and you would think with the development of this game,
hmm
Eternal Champions, they would know their platform and know how
yeah,
to go towards it to make it look something. Because here's the thing, right? If you look at Vector Man
hmm
or
hmm hmm
even Echo the Dolphin,
oh yeah,
there are games that look better than Eternal Champions did that aren't fighting games, right? That are Sega IPs, Comic Zone's another one. Like, so it's just like, whatever studio was in charge of this, you know, and I don't know if it was a rush job. That's the other thing. I don't know if there was like, we got to put out a
yeah.
fighting game,
It seemed. I don't know. I can't say it seemed rushed. I think it seemed like the graphics, of course, weren't that. They were okay.
Mhm.
The artwork was amazing. I thought the
Mhm.
artwork was pretty good for the characters. So I thought that was pretty good. And then like just some of the animations were good. Like when they do the taunts and stuff.
Yeah.
I used to like when they did the taunts. I like that. That was a good little add on to it. But yeah, I kind of agree. Like it was. I would say it was rushed because if it was rushed, I would think it'd be a lot more bugs, like in the game. But I can see where you're saying it felt like something was missing. I know when I recently played the game, like it felt like something was like I'm looking for something. I'm missing something, but I can't put my hand, I can't put
Yeah,
my finger
exactly.
on it. Like
That's
yeah,
exactly how I felt.
yeah, yeah. So like I guess for like fighting games, of course, you had you play with your friends, like your co-op, right? Like wasn't an arcade, so you couldn't play with like strangers in public. So I remember playing with my friends, and they have like a tournament mode in Eternal Champions, which I think was pretty cool because like if you had like 4 or 5 people over, I only had like maybe 3 kids over, and we would do like a little tournament where you could do like there's AI in there, and there's also human characters, which is your friends. So that was a pretty interesting thing, just working on doing those tournaments and stuff like that, having a tournament mode. That I don't remember that in a lot of other fighting games. I could be wrong, but what were your experiences playing with people like like your buddies at the time or even now?
Yeah, so I play a lot of games solo. So even with fighting games, I play a lot of them solo. So it's me versus the computer. Unless I was staying over, like the person I played the most gaming, I did the most gaming with was my cousin. So unless I was staying over at his house, I was playing by myself. Only because my sister didn't play these kind of games. So so it was me versus the computer.
Yeah.
And I there were, in every gaming person, there's that there's that time or multiple times where you're like, the game is cheating, right? Because you're not getting the hits or they're doing something to counter. So I feel like with this one, I don't even remember if you could go and change the difficulty, but I felt like just without if you just started the game,
Mhm.
it was pretty brutal, like starting off, you know. You could
There
do
was a beginner mode. There was a
yeah,
beginner mode.
okay.
Yeah. But it
You
was still hard. It was
yeah.
still hard.
So I felt like this was like one of those games where it's just like, man, these they're really, because the computer is gonna do stuff that you just start this game. And that's how I felt was like, I am not good at this game. I will probably not be good at this game. There's a practice mode.
Yes.
I'm not a person to do a practice mode unless I'm trying to figure out, like, if I'm looking at the manual and I'm trying to figure out how to do a move, then I'll do the practice mode. But most times I want to jump in and like, let's go, let's see what's going on.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I just remember that this game was difficult, starting off.
Yeah, it was a I remember when I first got it, yeah, it was a huge learning curve, especially if you're not in the like I like fighting games, but like I said, I wasn't always good at them. Um, I got good with like Eternal Champions was what gave me confidence in playing other fighting games because when I played Eternal Champions, I was like, oh man, I'm good. I'm getting all the moves. I know all the moves for my characters, and I got good over time, and it gave me more confidence to play like the more extreme games, like I said, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. I remember like with Mortal Kombat, I always struggled with the fatalities, but this game kind of gave me some practice on doing fatalities, even though they're totally different.
Right.
But it kind of gave me the what do you call it? Like the button, like my finger memory, like my memory and how to control things kind of transferred over to Mortal Kombat, and I got really good at Mortal Kombat through this game. It was almost like a training game
Hmm,
for the other games.
that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like this wasn't my first fighting game, so
yeah.
I was coming from the perspective of this should feel a certain way, and maybe that's when you were talking earlier, like there's something missing.
Yes.
Maybe that's what it was. I already been playing fighting games, and so to be presented with a fighting game, I had already expectations, you know, high expectations. So, um, so yeah, there wasn't a lot of. I guess the learning curve would be again just learning the particular character moves. But I was already into fighting games, so I knew how they go. The one thing I would say with this one was there were almost kind of like stun punches where you could like when you hit a character, it would like kind of knock them back a little, or they would like freeze, and then you'd be able to get in a couple more hits. But this was again, I didn't. It just didn't feel polished enough for me.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, if you're like into the fighting game genre like you are, then you probably will notice something is missing. The thing was, Eternal Champions was always in the video game store, like when I was looking for a video game, but they never had like Mortal Kombat, and I couldn't get Mortal Kombat anyway because my mom wouldn't let me get Mortal Kombat because of what the news and all that was saying Mortal Kombat was evil, basically.
Right.
So even if they had Mortal Kombat, my mom would be like, "No, you can't have Mortal Kombat." So that was out. That was out of the picture unless I snuck over to my friend's house and played over there. But Street Fighter Two was rarely at the video store. Maybe like a little bit later when all the popularity kind of went down a little bit, or most
Right.
people went to the arcade to play it. But Eternal Champions was always there. It was like a reliable. It's almost like it was just you want the Ferrari, but you always get like the Corolla or the
Right.
Pinto. You're like, well, it's a car. I'll take it. I want a fighting game, so I'll get Eternal Champions. So
Yeah.
that's that's kind of why I ended up getting it because I I tried sneaking Mortal Kombat on my Christmas list, but of course my mom saw it and said no. And I had Eternal Champions on there like a backup, or alternative, and then I got that, and I said, all right, cool. Then I studied it. I studied it, and I said I'm gonna get good at this game. And I
Yeah.
don't know. I just the recent time I played it, I don't know if it's because I've been playing a lot of fighting games since then. That could be it. And then now I'm playing it now, and I'm like, wait a minute, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah.
Why is it so sluggish? Oh, no, what is kind of like your thoughts on
I
that?
think that's a valid point. You know,
Yeah,
I've played other fighting games and they
yeah,
feel different, you know.
yeah,
And I again, that's just that's where my perspective is coming from. Is like I played Street Fighter 2. I studied all the characters, all I played enough, you know, when it came out for the Genesis Championship Edition, you know, you could move the star up to see how fat, like, and it would speed up the game, or I guess it would speed up the characters. So
yeah,
you could be like fighting very zip fast, you know. But it was this idea again, like I would play through each character, and I played Street Fighter 2 to get good with each character.
yeah,
Um, Simply because also they had, you know, the endings back then also. So and Mortal Kombat, I had like I actually got that for Christmas. Um, and I put in a blood code and you know played that, and that was fun. I think the arcade was still better. Well, of course, and I think the Super NES actually had a better port, even though they didn't do the blood, just graphically. But yeah, for me, when I play fighting games, I want to know every character because they all play different, and I want to get good with all of them. Now I will have like, of course, the people that I'm top tier with, but I play a fighting game. I'm gonna play with every character.
mhm,
And I remember even again, you know, when I'm staying over at my cousin's house, we're renting, you know, Mortal Kombat, Fatal Fury, you know, when Super Street Fighter 2 came out, um, he got Killer Instinct. So we're all in these fighting games. We're doing all the things with the fighting games. Samurai Showdown. Oh my gosh, I love that game.
I remember that. Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember that game.
But so coming to Eternal Champions, I already had a sense of how fighting games should feel, how they should be presented, and how the controls should feel. And I didn't get that with this game. And like I said, I told you, I'm just glad I rented it and it wasn't a purchase, because I would have been sorely disappointed. Or back in the day, I would have traded in at Funko Land for pennies on the dollar. But yeah, so and then, I still play fighting games. Tekken has gotten more advanced.
Second's that's a good series. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Namco. What is that? Oh, it just left me. Soul Calibur.
Oh,
so fighting games with weapons now are so good. I mean, Virtual Fighter was, in my mind, it wasn't great. It felt like Eternal Champions. Again, Sega IP. Virtual Fighter 2 was a lot better game, and that's what I expected, was Virtual Fighter 2 to be better than Virtual Fighter 1. But Virtual Fighter 1 was groundbreaking 3D art, real fighting, but it wasn't real.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Virtua Fighter was the reason they did, and I'll get into this too, but the reason Eternal Champions did not have, I think it was like a third one, the third Eternal Champions never like pursued it, was because they wanted to focus on the Virtua Fighter series.
Yeah.
They wanted to they didn't want that to get in the way of Virtua Fighter. And it was mostly in Japan. Japan, since Sega is a Japanese company, they're like, I think Sega of America wanted to pursue Eternal Champions, but Sega Japan was like, no, we're going to stick with Virtua Fighter, and we're just scrapping this whole Eternal Champions.
Yeah, I get it, because they're looking at the landscape of, again, Tekken. They're looking at all these 3D fighting games, in an arena, and to be kind of on the cutting edge of that with Virtual Fighter, So Eternal Champions, and I'm even looking at the sales, like it didn't sell as probably well as they wanted it to. So now we're on to the next. So for me, again, like historically playing fighting games and then going back recently to play Eternal Champions, I was like, oh, I'm still disappointed. Like, nothing new here. It's still disappointing to me, trying all the different characters. I'm like, this is still garbage. But then I go back and I play Street Fighter 2 on the Genesis, and I'm happy, I like it. I like the way it feels, So
I think it's just it's Street Fighter aged better than Eternal Champions. I think it just aged well. Some of those games like there's some games that age well, like for example, like Mario you can play when you're like 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, like it never gets old. Street Fighter, like I said, Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, like these games, mostly Capcom games I'm noticing too.
Yeah.
Capcom games especially. Like these games, they age very well, like fine wine.
Mm-hmm.
And you're playing these games and you don't feel like something's missing. You don't even feel like you missed anything. It's like this is exactly what I remember. It's great. But Eternal Champions, I don't know, man. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I played it. I played it this week, just preparing for this episode, and I'm just like, you played it before I did, and you weren't happy about it, and I was like, well, maybe I'll still be happy about it. I don't care what he says. We'll see what happens. And then I played it, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's right.
I was like, nope, I remember.
Good.
It's terrible.
Yeah, this game is pretty bad.
Really terrible. And
yeah.
But here's the thing, right? And again, it lays the groundwork for Sega to start releasing its
Yeah,
own games on the consoles.
yeah.
Comic Zone. I mean, I would like to see a redo of Comic Zone.
Oh gosh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
I would like
Yep.
to see them do Vector Man again. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, again, that is a Sega game, and you're just like that. That is still going to this day.
Another game that aged well.
Yeah,
Sonic,
like
or series, should say.
I will play
Yeah,
Sonic, the original Sonic the Hedgehog. You
yeah,
know, just because it's a good time waster. You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh, so it's just, you know, I think that was the other thing too, is I expected more from Sega.
yeah,
Um, but as their first fighting game, I think I expected more. Uh, and maybe I shouldn't, but I did, you know. I
yeah.
did.
But that's the thing. Like we're kind of going to the characters now because characters, and I think you already mentioned this. Like the characters weren't really memorable. Like I don't remember. Like I remember Sub Zero and Scorpion and Ryu and
Right.
Guile, and like I remember those names. Like
Yeah.
they're very iconic. Like if you know anything about video games, you definitely know about Ryu,
Yeah.
right? You know Ryu. Ken. Like you know about like these character
Chun-Li.
names. Chun Li. Like yeah, they're very like household names. But like these character names, like I'll go through them. Like yeah, Jonathan Blade. He's a bounty hunter.
Hmm.
He's from 2030. And you got Jetta Max. He's from Russia. He's from 1899. You have Larson Tyler, and I think he's more like a Batman character to me.
Yeah.
The way he played. But he was a cat burglar from the 20s. And then you had Midnight, and you mentioned this one, the vampire,
Hmm.
and this was he was from 1967. And then Right. You have this one guy he's from way in the future, 2,345 Rax, RAX.
Hmm.
He is a cyber kickboxer. Then you had from our time at that when this game came out, we had Shadow, and she was a ninja, and Slash from he was like a caveman from 50,000 BC, and you had a robot. It said art. When I read this, I was like, he's an artificial being, but he's from 110 BC, and he was created by some Atlanteans,
Yeah.
110 BC. So then he had Xavier, and then of course you have, or Xavier's from 1692. I think you mentioned him briefly.
Yeah. The wizard.
Uh, yeah, and he was from like the Salem witch trial. That's how he died.
Yeah.
He was charged for witchcraft, and then of course the Eternal Champion, who's running this whole tournament. And the whole thing is they're just trying to get their lives back before the person that wins gets their life back if right they get a second chance. So they
Yeah.
all died before they become yeah, before they can become great. They all just die. But this
Yeah.
time if they win, they get another chance. They can avoid their death and
Yeah.
just have another chance at life. And then the people that lose in the tournament, uh, they just die the regular way.
Yeah, I had a like when I remember the story, like from what I remember, I was like, it's almost like
Yeah,
they're in purgatory or something like that.
yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Yeah,
Yeah, they have to fight their way out, and hopefully they
yeah,
get to, be resurrected at the time of when before they died, so they can avoid all that.
yep,
But I mean, yeah. So you have that story, but it's like you said, it's not memorable. Like I didn't nothing. Here's the crazy thing, right? There's no cohesive story in Street Fighter 2 until the Street Fighter anime comes out, right?
that is true. Yes,
Each of those characters
yeah,
have their own story. We don't know
yeah,
even why they're fighting. You know, you're just one. You pick a character. Next thing you know, it's like Japan, and you're on your way to. You know, so it's a world tournament. That's all you know, right?
Yeah, there's no
So
story set yet.
Shadowroo,
Yeah,
all that lore comes later on,
yeah,
right?
yes, yeah.
So to have these kind of characters who have a story
Hmm.
still not be memorable is kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, playing Street Fighter, like even with like Mortal Kombat, the story was still. It was like you get like the little text when they were doing like the weight screen of
Yep.
Liu Kang is fighting for the
Yeah.
monastery, blah blah blah. Kung Lao is a god, is an elder god. This is Mortal Kombat 2 now. But yeah, so you'd have like these little blurbs about what was going on in
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat. But in Street Fighter, there was no cohesive story. And to have a game where we have this is the whole, like, we have a one complete story,
Yep.
and these people are living in it, but I couldn't tell you a character for the life of me.
I didn't think they had the personality. Like the Street Fighter characters had, like, yeah, Blanca,
Yeah,
like a green guy. Like he has personality. You have Ken, he's like a little geek. He has a little red outfit on,
yeah,
um, and you have Ryu, like, and they have their moves that are memorable. So you
yeah.
kind of, I mean, it's like people. I know people that don't even play video games that much. Like they know who Chun Li is. Like they
Mhm.
can tell. They like if I say Chun Li, they're like, oh yeah, it's that fighting girl, right? That girl in that fighting game,
Yeah.
right? So like, but yeah, you're right. Like the story for Eternal Champions was really good. I thought the story was great. It had a lot of promise, but like like you were saying, like the characters, um, they were just, I don't know, they were just like, I don't, they weren't the life of the party to me. They were just very normal. I guess I don't know.
I
They
think
weren't like extreme enough to be memorable. At least that's kind of what my conclusion is on
I
that.
think that's also
Yeah,
like a symptom of people not playing the game, right?
that's true too. Yeah,
So if no one's playing the game or no one's like invested in it, they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to be
yeah,
like, because every game that, well, I'm not saying every game. A lot of games that I've played is because someone's like, you need to play this game.
yeah,
Fighting games, no one ever had to convince me to play a fighting game. I would just wander in the arcade. If there was a fighting game, I would put my quarters in.
mm,
Um, but you want people to talk about your game. You want people to talk about the characters of the game. And I think nobody really kind of remembering the characters is a symptom of nobody is really playing this game.
yeah. And I think you're right. Like I think if it had a more of a series, I think there was more games. Maybe they might be able to kind of hash out the characters more because they only had, I think it's only like two games they had, and the other game wasn't as advertised as heavily as the first game.
Mhm.
But yeah, they didn't really. There's only those two games. Like Street Fighter had multiple games, so you can kind of get to know the characters, get used to them, and know
Yeah.
that these characters land like strangers.
Here's the crazy thing: like
Yeah,
Street Fighter One was only in the arcade, right?
yep,
Street
yep,
Fighter Two was in arcade, and then it made it to home console.
yeah,
Uh, but Street Fighter Two lasted for almost like 20 years, like
yeah, yeah,
different iterations. But to have that kind of staying power, again, it's good gameplay, good control. Like I like the different kinds of characters because that's the other thing. Street Fighter had a bunch of different kinds of characters, 12 people, from all over the world. Starting off, then it got to like 14, and then it got to like I don't know however many they have now. But yeah, so it's just like and then Tekken's even more ridiculous because it's like I think there's like 20 something characters.
There's tons of them in
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
So, but here's the thing: even in Tekken, there are a handful of characters that and if somebody says like Harang or Lee, you're like, okay, I know those people. I know who those characters are. Eddie Gordo, like so
Yeah.
again, memorable characters because of their
Yep.
fighting styles and things like that. I mean, Lee basically was Bruce Lee,
Yeah. They
And,
made that Mortal Kombat story was basically Enter the Dragon.
yeah, I mean, that's
That
the
was
thing.
the whole that was the whole story
Yeah, but I'm
with
sorry.
little changes. But
Tekken.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
with Tekken, again, it's kind of the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like there are memorable characters in Tekken,
Yeah.
And so, like I said, even with Fatal Fury, like Andy, Terry, Bogard, like
Mhm.
memorable characters. Mai Shiranui, of course, she was memorable, but that's a different story. like, but so when you're building a game, any game, you want people to remember who these characters are and be invested in what's going to happen to them. So I just feel like the gameplay took away from that because once you started trying to play it, it was kind of like, oh, like I don't know, like and it's just I don't know, I get why it has mixed reviews, but for me, it was not hitting on anything.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was and this kind of also shows that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you're more into fighting games than I am. You're more of a fighting game fan. But I think more fighting game fans like the gameplay. They don't really care too much about the story, not that much, because this had a good story,
Yeah,
but nobody really cared.
if the gameplay is good, I'm gonna learn
Yeah,
the lore because
yeah,
I'm gonna get the lore through the gameplay, right?
yeah. Mhm.
So my first in Street Fighter 2, the first character I ever learned how to play was Chun-Li, right?
Yeah,
Because I think for the first time for me, it was like seeing that she was the first female I saw in a fighting game, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna learn how to play with her. And then in my boy logic, it was females would be lighter and faster, so I
yeah,
could get more hits in, which was true with her.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah,
I would just have to work harder because my punches wouldn't do as much damage. So to again, that was something different. For at least for me, I'd never seen a female in a fighting game, up at that point.
yeah.
So I wanted to get good with her. And it was really her controls. They were really simple. It was easy to learn because it was, press that rapid kick button, you do that flash
Oh
kick,
yeah, that's all you had to do. Yeah,
hopping
just a
around,
lot easier to move. Yeah,
hopping around. You could, and just like it was just something, again with the controls. Uh, Actually, it's funny because I didn't get good with Ryu and Ken until I got it on the console because I was mostly playing with Chun-Li at the arcade, you know.
Mhm.
And again, with the control, the half circle forward, half circle back, the whole circle or quarter circle forward, quarter circle back, hold down, so it's just like again with the controller it just felt more at ease. And I didn't feel that with Eternal Champions. I didn't feel the controller be as smooth
Mhm.
with those characters. So it was just clunky. And I guess going back to like the game is already difficult because of how you designed it. Making it clunky makes it worse, right?
Yes. Hmm.
I
Hmm.
will play Street Fighter on the hardest, level, but it's because I know how to move. I know how the character like flows,
Hmm.
or as the kids say today, I get into that flow state.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was just easier for me in a lot of other fighting games to pick up on how a character moves. You know.
And that kind of brings us to like the reception and the legacy.
Mhm.
Like you were saying, like a lot of the reviewers are basically saying the same thing you're saying. They're saying the controls were just bad, but it did sell really well. It sold like 1.6 million copies
I
worldwide
I believe it because again,
because
it
of the
was a very
advertising.
big, yeah, it was
Right.
a very big
Yeah.
push for this game. And like I
Yeah.
got the Electronic Gaming Monthly because I
Yeah.
wanted to read up on it. I was excited about playing it. So I'm not surprised, you know.
hmm Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of kids that got the game thinking this is going to be great. This is going to be better than Street Fighter. It's going to be better than Mortal Kombat because the advertising were telling them this is going to be great, and then they bring it home and they're like, wait a minute, this is not what I was expecting, which is why we got the mixed reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's like I said, there's a lot of games that's happened to where
yeah,
they picked it up so high and then you
yeah,
got it, you started playing it, and you're just like, this is trash. Like,
yeah,
and
yep,
at least now with games, they can release updates to like correct a lot of that stuff.
yeah, with patching and stuff. Yeah,
But back
yeah,
then, like once a game was out, it was out.
yeah. You were kind of screwed. Well, they did try for a second Internal Champions when Sega CD came out. So I don't think people were fooled the second time, but I don't think they hyped it up as much. I don't remember. Do you remember any
Yeah, I
commercials
don't remember
for
commercials or anything for it.
the second one? Okay, I
I
don't
think
remember seeing anything.
I think a lot of it was you had to know that Eternal Champions was coming out because the first one had I looked at that. I actually have it. Didn't fare so well, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So turns out I actually have it. So
You do have that? You have that game?
yeah, I do. Eternal Champions Challenge from the Dark Side.
Yeah, that was it. It was released in 1995,
Yep.
and it had a new cast of characters though. I was like, oh, new cast of characters, trying to be like Street Fighter, bringing
Yeah.
in new people, new characters. But the problem was, I had the same problem as the original, is with the controls were really bad. It was on Sega CD. It was a cleaner, nicer looking game, but the controls were still lousy, and
Yep.
that's what people weren't liking, and then it got
That's
worse.
it makes a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, yeah,
Like how you control something makes a difference. It's like again, like I said, today you could have released a patch, but back
yes,
then, once it was out, it was out. And
yeah. You couldn't do nothing else.
no,
No. So
that's interesting to think
yeah,
about too. Like how many games could have been improved if they had just been able to patch it?
yeah,
Interesting to think about.
yeah. Well, like they said, like in the Nintendo era, like there's probably 85% of the games I read somewhere, like 85% of the games just were really bad.
Mhm.
They weren't really worked on, or they're half worked on, or they were rushed, and they just were really bad games. Like 15% were really good, but then 85% were like trash. And I'm like, wow, Nintendo, popular Nintendo, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
But like you said, no patching.
no patch.
So
Then like
you get what you get.
yeah, and like you look at the Nintendo library, it's like over 400 something games. So you're
Yeah.
telling me that 85% of those games are terrible? That's a lot of games just to be. They were just like, yeah, we'd have just probably if we'd only released the 15%, that's what we're known for, and that's what they're known for today. Because I'm telling you right now, no one talks about Highlight. You know that game.
No, 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 that was bad. Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you got the game, all you had to rely on, especially in the 80s and probably early 90s, you didn't have the internet. You didn't have people, you had your friends, right?
Yep.
You had a magazine if you had a subscription. Not everybody has a subscription, or your
I
parents could afford a
yeah.
subscription. So you didn't really have much. All you had to go by was the case,
Yep.
or how it looks, um, and that's about it. You didn't really have much, and then you dish out like $60 or $50, and then you bring the game home. You're like, oh, it's not your money; it's your parents' money. But you can't go to your parents and say, "Hey, look, this game is crap. Can you get? Can I get another game?"
Yeah, I'm so glad renting became a thing
Yeah, yeah, that was
because I
great.
think that saved a lot of people and a lot of parents money.
Yes, yeah,
Because, like I said, with Eternal Champions, like I rented that game, so
yeah,
I didn't fork over the money to play it to play it. I think it was like $3.99 to rent
yeah.
it, but that's better than $60, uh, $60-$70. That's crazy too that we were paying that money for cartridges that I can put on my phone now. That's crazy. Yeah,
Plastic cartridges, yeah. Plastic cartridges for
it's
$60 back
crazy.
then.
You know,
Yeah. But they had a good deal going. They had a really good deal with that. They can just send the game out. They know that people are going to buy it. But like you said, with the renting, that does help.
that's it. I think that
Save
saves
you
a lot
money.
of people.
Yeah.
Saves a
Yep.
lot of parents a lot of money because there were
Yep.
games that were just like if again with Nintendo,
Yep.
85% of the games are trash. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're gonna run into a trash game more likely than not. So,
Yeah.
um, but back to Eternal Champions, this is one of those games where you're just like you tried, Sega, you tried to do a fighting game and you failed, and that's fine. But here's the thing: Virtual Fighter came out. You did. I think that was a great game. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there's definitely like, of course, positive and negative. You're building. You're trying to again build the Sega brand, and I feel this is my personal opinion. We would probably still have Sega today if um, during the Dreamcast era, they got the third party support because the Dreamcast was it was a better machine than the PlayStation. Just,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
just hands out, it was a better machine.
Yeah. It was a really good system. I had the Sega
But
Dreamcast. Yeah, that was a
it
good
was
system. Yeah.
hard to write for. Like it was hard
Yeah.
to make games for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that again, Sega was trying to be at the forefront of a lot of things, and they were ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And I think here with this fighting game, they were trying to cash in on the fighting game genre, but I think it also propelled them to move ahead of their time with
Mhm.
Virtual Fighter 2.
Mhm.
You start to see them be like, oh, we can make these 3D fighters. I know when that came out in the arcade, that was crazy to see,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
an actual 3D fighter. So which spawn Tekken, which spawn, all these other different 3D fighters. Even Street Fighter had a 3D fighter, which was terrible, but I won't talk about that.
Another episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did try that. They did try with some spinoffs. Like I didn't even know about this until I did research.
Hmm.
Like they had Chicago Syndicate that came out in '95 for the Game Gear.
Hmm.
That was Larson Tyler. It was like an alternate timeline,
That's interesting.
and it was an action. It wasn't a fighting game. It was an action game. Um,
What's
and
it?
that came out Chicago Syndicate. It's an action game, and it came out in '95. So it came out around the same time the other one did for the Sega
I
CD.
got that.
I didn't even heard of it. I never even heard of it.
Me neither.
Uh,
You got it. That's funny.
and there's two, and then you might have this one. It's Experts. This one came out in '96. This
What's
came out for the Genesis,
all right?
and this one was with Shadow. So Shadow is also an alternate timeline where she doesn't die, but this is a beat 'em up. This is not this ain't a fighting game. So
How,
it's like the game. It's like River City Ransom and Double Dragon, but it's her and her vigilante group. Yeah,
it's called what? Experts?
it's X. It's like
Oh,
X.
the
Yeah,
letter.
yeah, not EX. Yeah, it's experts,
Let's
and
see.
that was
Hey, I
their last
had
thing.
that. Oh
What's
wow.
it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
And
do.
then
And it's
and they
like
had a Go
Uh,
ahead.
it looks sort of like the Vector Man art, kind of like the three pseudo 2D 3D.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I was like, that looks kind of interesting.
Hmm.
And they had the Tiger handheld. So they tried a Tiger hand. Remember those Tiger
Yeah.
handhelds you bring in school? That was part of the Sega. Sega had their own like arcade series where you
Yeah.
could have like Sonic was on there too, I think.
I think my
Yeah.
dad had the Sonic one.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
But it would only play like it was Sonic, but it was only like the from the first one. It was like the level 2.
Yeah.
And we play that music, which I don't really like that song, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, they keep playing the same thing. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah, and then also one thing I did learn, I actually like to see this. They are the same people that created Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know if you heard about this. They're going to do a film for Eternal Champions. So they're planning to write they're in the writing of the script phase right now. And it was announced it was 2024. It was announced in 2024 that they're going to be doing a film adaptation for Eternal Champions.
Huh.
And it's the same people that did the Sonic movies. And they're going to partner with Sega and they're going to bring these characters to life. And I'm a I'm I'm a little excited, but I'm also a little worried because I know movies and fighting games usually don't do well.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe, but I don't know, man.
again,
I'm a
I
little
think
worried about this.
Sega. This might be Sega trying to jump on a trend because the Street Fighter movie comes out this year, right?
That's right. Yeah, that new Street Fighter movie, which I think looks like crap.
Yeah,
That's just my opinion.
I mean, I have not. The only good Street Fighter movie has been the animated movies, right?
That was it. Yeah.
And the Street Fighter 2V, which was the animated series,
Yes. Yeah.
not the one that came on USA, which was just terrible. Like,
Raul Julia was good though.
I mean, there were good lines.
Yeah, his heart out. Yeah.
There was definitely great lines by Raul Julia in that movie.
Raul Julia. Yeah. Yeah.
That movie, like I'll watch it,
Yeah.
but I will not say it's a great movie,
No, no. I would never say it's a great movie. No, it's far from that. But anyway, I want to go into final thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and we'll go into the ratings. So since I liked the game when I was younger, I gave it a 5 out of 10.
Really?
Because yeah, I'm being nice.
Even going back, yeah, I was gonna say you're being very nice.
I'm being nice, but that's because it was one of the games that made me good at the time. It was like a good, it was almost like a coach.
Right.
So I have to give it a 5 out of 10. And the reason, like I said, it's right now. I don't think I can play it again. I only play it for the show. I don't think I want to play it. I'm gonna play it again. What about you? What is your thoughts? Final thoughts of Eternal Champions?
I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10.
Whoa.
I mean, again, I just you're in the midst of fighting game, fury.
Yeah.
So I get why you wanted to do this, but you poorly executed it.
Yeah.
And like I said, nobody remembers the character. Like you telling me that they're gonna make a fight of Eternal Champions like movie has me kind of just scratching my head because it's just like of all the game, like if you would have said they were making a Comic Zone movie,
Oh, I would love to see that.
I'd be like, okay, like
Yeah.
do it. But
Yeah.
now again, I feel like you're still trying to find the fighting game. You're writing the fighting game, coattails of the Street Fighter movie that's gonna come out. And you're like, well, we might as well just do Eternal Champion. Like, no, like it wasn't good when you did it. There's no reason to repeat the mistake. So 1 out of 10. That's just me.
The story might be good. The story is good for Eternal Champion. So that's what I'm saying. I'm excited. I have mixed feelings. It's either it's either going to be really good. Well, I would say really good. I don't know any video game movie is really good, but maybe it's going to be watchable.
Silent
or it's going to be crap.
Silent Hill was a good video game.
Oh, Silent Hill was a good one. Yeah. Resident Evil, some of the Resident Evil movies were pretty good.
I will
Some
give
of
you
them.
the first Resident Evil movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though it wasn't Resident Evil. I'll give you the first Resident Evil movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the Sonic series, of course. Like the Sonic series has been really good. And the Mario series, but they all
Right, the most recent Mario movie was
right, yeah, to be clear.
the animated one. So
Animated one, yeah. All right, cool. So that is Eternal Champions. And thank you all for listening. Thank you, Marz Attakz, for your knowledge and your fighting game knowledge, I should say, because you're the expert.
Aubrey.
Yeah, pretty much. You're the subject matter expert on fighting games. So thank you for your opinions on that. So that's about it. And I appreciate you all listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna have another amazing game.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it.
And that is Eternal Champions. Playing this game for the show, I realize now that I was looking at it through nostalgic goggles and remember the game being way better than it actually was. The controls were clunky and the moves were a lot harder to do from what I remember. The story is good though, and I'm interested in seeing them turn into a movie. And I hope that it's not a nightmare like the Street Fighter movie that they gave us. In a sense, this game didn't really age well as its replayability is not as good as Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. There's a reason why this game was in my backlog for so long. Thank you again for joining us on Cartridge Chronicles. Keep your controllers ready and your adventures endless. We'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, don't stop gaming.